So we've added to the rundown, and we're talking about the gorilla.
The gorilla, Harambe.
Harambe. So here's the story if you don't know it. It's pretty simple. Harambe was in his cage minding his business, and there was a mother who had a number of children.
How do you know that?
No, because it was in the thing. She had a couple of, she was
It
at
wasn't
the
like
zoo.
she was like with a zoo behind her.
She had a couple of children at the zoo. She turned away. Her son fell into this entrapment.
Well, he climbed the 4-foot barrier.
He climbed 2 barriers.
Then he climbed the barrier, went through the bushes, and then fell 15 feet into the moat that surrounds it.
Yes, and so because of that, the gorilla at first picked him up, and I thought the gorilla seemed, and from the video, mind you, I'm not a zookeeper or anything like that. He seemed to be very calm.
At first, Harambe was like, "What is this?" and then kind of like stood around him to protecting, but then kind of turned aggressive.
But I think he turned aggressive because everyone was yelling.
He's also a wild animal that doesn't have to interact with small boys.
But also, everybody was yelling at the top of their lungs. So this is my PSA, because my mom, you know, I was a single mother. I wasn't single. My mom was a single mother, and like we went to the zoo. Parents, control your kids. Seriously. Like, how did he manage to get through 2 different encasements without you noticing? Control your kids. If they're bad as hell, put them on a leash.
Mine kind of differs from that. Yes, I agree with you in that sense, but at the same time, I've never been to a zoo where I think I can actually put myself in danger, and I think that that is a big deal. Why?
There was 2 different barricades, though.
Okay,
Tamara.
but he's like 5, and he was able to climb.
That's why you put your kid on a leash, or you say, like, or you bring a grandma, you bring grandpa, you bring auntie, you bring uncle, and this is the other thing that blows me is that we have lost our collective being in this country, right? Because when I was growing up in the 80s, and if I was getting ready to jump over a gorilla cage, I guarantee you some stranger would have been like, get your behind down. But because we now live in this litigious society where everybody's like, oh, if you touch my kid, I'm going to sue you.
Yeah.
All those other people stood there and watched as this kid went through 2 different barricades.
Yep.
So number 1, we need to have
point.
a more collective society. And number 2, parents, control your badass kids. Like, control your kids. There's no reason that your kid should have made it through 2 different things. My mother, it would have been a slipper. She would have taken off her shoe and it would hit me in the top of my head before I even made it past the first barricade. Trust me. Control your kids. You should be able to tell, like, my mom would be able to tell me, they call me JR at home, for folks who don't know, and she'd be like, I would hear the tone of her voice and know to stop.
Yes. Yes.
The fear of God would come over me. Clearly that did not work for this little boy, so sadly this gorilla had to die because this woman cannot control her kids, and nobody in the community, who were all videotaping this thing and probably Snapchatting it, said, hey little boy, stop.
Yeah. Well, what I'm actually surprised about is there is not more footage of this, because I assumed that it was going to be that behind the screen, everyone would be like, look at this kid climbing the
World
fence,
star.
and you would have every single angle of this kid being either mauled or killed or something amazing happening, and there is only one angle that is actually worthwhile.
Where was the rest of the community who was there? Collective community, and control your kids.
I don't know. Be there.
PSA for Richard Fowler today.